Okay, it's 4 o'clock. We'll start in about a minute, please. I'd like to call the Henry County Council meeting of January 25th, 2023 to order. If you would please stand, we'll be led by pledge by Betsy and prayer by Harold. I don't see that we have any changes to our itinerary. We'll open it up with a motion for President of the Council for 2023. Harold? Okay, a motion's been made for Kenan Gray to be council president. Did I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by Susan. Any other nominations?
Kenan, you've done a great job as president. We're lucky to have you in that position. You really do the work. You keep us informed. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, Betsy. Any other nominations? I have a motion to close the presidency nomination.
I move to close.
All those in favor of Kenan being president for 2023, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 6 with 1 abstention. Carrying on, motion's now open to the floor for vice president.
I would like to nominate Susan Hoon for vice president of the council.
Betsy nominates Susan Hoon for vice president of the council. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Kyle. Any other nominations? If not, all in favor of Susan Hoon being vice president of the council in 2023, say aye.
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 Opposed? Passes 6 with 1 abstention. Ditto. Okay, thank you. Thank you, council. Approval of the December 15th council minutes. Hopefully you've had those. Debbie sent those out early January. Do I hear a motion? Move to approve by Kyle. Oh yeah, you did have a note on yours. Yeah, just speak up or we'll do something. Anyway, carrying on. It's been moved and seconded, I think. Did you move it? You threw me off, Kyle. Was your motion? Moved it. Do I have a second? Seconded by Shannon. Any discussion? No corrections? Okay, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. We have Corey here, Corey and Penny. for an EDC and RDC, and they passed out handouts prior. Welcome, sir.
Good afternoon, Council. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you. Appreciate your ongoing support and investment in economic development. I'm going to start with just our annual investor newsletter. It's also available on the web. It's for your reading pleasure. Not really any new news, but it is a look back in terms of all the initiatives over the last year, and a little glimpse of going forward with a continued focus on entrepreneurship and making sure that our sandbox here in Henry County is the best that it can be in supporting small businesses and new businesses. In fact, tonight, several organizations are coming together to kick off, I believe, what is the 4th annual Business Builders. And so Business Builders is it's an open call to the community, whether you're an entrepreneur or an existing small business, to come network and then go through a series of educational topics that are important to running a business, anything ranging from an HR strategy to an accounting strategy or to a marketing strategy, and at the end, there's pitch night. And you pitch your plan, and you have an opportunity to win a mini grant. So the kickoff for that is tonight, and that's a collaborative between the Main Street, the ISBDC, the Economic Development Corporation, and others. In the newsletter, it talks about Make My Move. So in the pullout or the handout, Make My Move initiative aims to attract new residents. The interest in that is very strong. We have secured our first new mover, and that they'll be moving here first or second week of February. And then your president will receive a robust update on Make My Move on February 2nd, along with the commissioner's president and then representatives from the city of Newcastle as well. Make My Move will be here on February 2nd to provide a detailed update on the program and where we're going. I'm happy to answer questions, but that is a tremendous program made possible through the collaborative investment of Henry County government and the city of Newcastle. And then we received a state grant as well. Below that article is EDC offers training grants. Just want to make you aware of that. Maybe in your network, there might be some businesses interested in doing that. From a redevelopment commission update, the Shell building, and this is kind of it goes back between economic development and redevelopment, but the Shell building continues to do its job. The interest on that building has been brisk. It brings people to town that otherwise wouldn't come because we have the product where they can make their widget. We are on a short list on a project, and the level and frequency of communication on this particular project is at a good pace. I'm not at a point where I can say anything because it's not my story yet to tell. But if the building goes under contract, I could envision working with the Tax Abatement Committee of the County Council, and I could also envision working with the Redevelopment Commission to secure this new corporate client here in our community. And this is where I talk really fast and offer you a disclaimer. It could all fall apart this afternoon. We may get voted off the island for reasons outside of our control, but thus far, it's moving along very nicely. If you are headed from Indianapolis on I-70 eastbound and you stop at the rest area, kind of right there by Eastern Hancock Schools, the bulletin boards in there are in a collaboration between our office, the tourism effort, the Indiana Destination Development, and INDOT. Christy Regal and I decorated those bulletin boards, cleaned them up, and we're going to do more, but sometimes brown space or white space on a bulletin board is good, as opposed to covering every single bit of it with just random stuff. So I was glad that the state made that available to us, and they trust us because I have a key. Just to let that sink in. Not to the building, just to the bulletin board. You have a phone. You have a little phone stand with our tourism brand on it, hoopsandhenry.com. What you're going to see out of that this year is more short-form video. People much younger and smarter than me say they're reels. I think you can find the reels on the TikTok and the ChatSnap. I'm on neither of those, but that is the way of the world, short-form video. And so we're going to market our community, our tourism assets, using short-form video. It's a minute or less. We'll launch 2 of those a month. And so we continue to have fun with that. Have I missed anything, Penny? Okay. Thank you for funding her position, both the council and the commissioners. It provides tremendous competitive advantage for our office because I can't be everywhere at one time, and neither can she, but we can divide and conquer. So I appreciate that. I do want to move into a specific business expansion project. You also should have had a one-pager, but I'll pause, and are there any questions of a general nature? Thank you. So in an appropriately advertised executive session, I worked with Kenan on who I should ask to attend a tax abatement committee meeting, keeping in mind that the 2 members of the tax abatement committee in 22 no longer serve on the county council in 23. And I talked to Kenan about the client's time frame really didn't allow us to wait till tonight for you all to decide who is going to be on the tax abatement committee. So if you're mad that you were excluded, blame me. But Mike Regner, Shannon Tome, and Betsy Mills, in an advertised executive session of this body, reviewed this project. And I don't want to speak for them, but they're in support of the recommendation. But let me walk you through it. This is in West Liberty Township, Millville. So it's the existing grain elevator in commonly known as Millville. So out 38 between Newcastle and Hagerstown. I get in trouble when I get technical here, but it's north of 38. The address is 477 South 600 East. It's a $21 million investment. The breakdown is about $13 million in building and about $8 million in equipment. It's 30 new jobs by the end of 2024. 10 of those jobs would come online this fall, and then the rest of them would come into place by the end of 2024. 18 positions at an average hourly wage of $23, and 12 salary positions at an average of $80,000 a year. The wage excludes the benefit. And in an effort to keep this on one page, I had a lot of the benefit information there, but it's competitive benefits. I would call it above average benefits. If you need to see it, I'm happy to share it with you. This is a joint effort. So Legacy Feed is actually the applicant, but Co-Alliance is the majority owner of Legacy Feed. There's some history there about Co-Alliance. I'm going to leave that to your reading pleasure, but the project would consist of a new feed mill, office, and grain storage. The competition for this investment is the company's Hagerstown location. The incentive recommendation is a 7-year traditional on the real and personal, and the estimated savings is $1.6 million, or about 8% of the project. Now, for the Tax Abatement Committee, that estimated savings is less than what I presented to you because I did not have the breakout of building and equipment. So I put it all in building. And when I got the equipment, there's this funny little thing called depreciation on equipment. And so the companies legally pay less on equipment because they can depreciate the tax value down faster. And so this is less than what the savings or your investment in this project is less, but I still think it makes sense at 1.6. What I'm asking today is consistent with our previous projects process. That's a lot of P's. Previous projects process is obviously questions about the project, but I would simply request your permission to work with Mr. Harvey to prepare a resolution for a vote at your February meeting. If that vote passes in February, then that would provide for a public hearing designating these parcels as an ERA, an economic revitalization area. That public hearing would occur at your March meeting with a final vote.
Did I hear you'd like a motion to proceed with Attorney Harvey? Do we have that?
I don't know if I need a motion, but I do want your permission
I just
to.
want to highlight something before we go there. We're all brand new members of the Tax Abatement Committee, and Penny and Corey did a great job of answering questions, but I want my colleagues to look at the jobs that are created by this. 30 new jobs, 18 positions at $23 an hour. That's great. I mean, that's great. 12 positions at $80,000. When we think about abatements, it has to be a job creator, but we also want good jobs. And these are really, these are great wages for the county. So to me, this is an absolute no-brainer, but I'm excited to see 12 positions at $80,000. That's really exciting.
Corey, as I recall, we helped them when they first started, and they treated us fair on our abatement that time.
Yeah.
Now, how many years do they want on abatement this time?
Well, I think we've got a couple projects, Mr. Griffin. About 7 years ago, they came in and wanted an abatement, and I stood up here and said, I don't think they ought to get an abatement, but if you want to do one at 3 years. And you all did it. And then recently, last year, you partnered with them on an expansion at their Mount Summit facility at 3 years. And part of the rationale for that partnership was I knew that we were competing for this. Now, I didn't have all this information, but I knew that we were competing. And this one's a better project, which lends me to a recommendation of a 7-year abatement over a 3-year abatement.
You need permission to proceed with Attorney Harvey.
I'd like to make the motion we direct Corey to work with Joel to create a resolution for our February meeting.
I have a second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Passes 7-0. Mr. Harvey, Esquire.
Thank you.
Thank you. So to be continued in February and March. Speaking of EDC, we have a thank you note from Penny York that I think she sent out to all council members. She appreciates support and the raise. And I think you sent that to every single council member, so we appreciate your thoughtfulness in doing so. And Shonda Kane's not here because she's at the meeting, I don't remember what you called it, but the meeting tonight that's sponsored by the Chamber, the business meeting. Yes, okay. because she sometimes gives her updates at our meetings as well. Next, we have Public Defender's salary ordinance. And I don't have an ordinance number, but someone does. And I'll not read it, but it's been something that's been hammered out by the Public Defender Board. I think the commissioners had their hand in part of this, and as well as our county attorney. Is there anything that I need to specifically share? Because there'll probably be some retroactive pay involved because of the date of the meeting today. All council members have a copy of this. I would entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Moved by Kyle. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Betsy. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. Thank you. Next, we have salary ordinance for 911, Gabe Waugh. This was passed out, shared recently, I think yesterday, by Debbie, resent out this morning for the amount shown. $34,438. Everybody have a copy of this? If so, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Kyle, second by Harold. Any discussion? Kyle. Moved by Harold, seconded by Harold. No discussion? Well, did you? Oh, okay. Okay.
You're
We'll
just
get
used to me
next time.
sitting down there, Kenan.
Pardon?
You're just used to me sitting where Shannon is.
Oh, was it you?
Yeah.
Okay. I really can't tell unless I'm facing you. Susan knows how that works. Because we just, never mind. Anyway, there was no discussion. All in favor on this salary resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. We'll get you next time, Shannon. We have a sick payout for retiring Sheriff Deputy Mark Reese, 24 years, 6-month veteran of the Henry County Sheriff's Department. The council part is sick time is $16,876.80. You should have a copy of this. I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Betsy. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
And was that Kyle?
It was me again.
Your voices are really similar. Okay, this time it's Shannon. And we'll give him credit this time. Is that right? Yeah. Well, we appreciate his service. I think usually there's a gun involved, but appreciate Mark's service to Henry County. And please share that, Sheriff, on our behalf. So I greatly appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. Short-term memory. Did we pass this? We moved. Okay, that's why I asked. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Passes 7-0. I have an update from our new sheriff, Sheriff Sproles, if you'd like to come in. I did listen in to the commissioners' meeting last night, so I have a little bit of an idea, but it might be a little different presentation, but thank you and congratulations.
It's on now. Okay. It's going to be pretty similar to last night. I, first of all, want to thank you all on behalf of our deputies as well for the raise that you all gave that has just now kicked in. That put our starting salary up to $47,300, and our guys were very happy to get that. So thank you. It is the state police. We're going to have to continue to press, and I know that we are. We're tight on funds, but I believe the movement in the last year, and I think we had a raise the year before that, is good. But I just want to state that we're going to have to continue to push. The state police are making no bones about the fact that they're coming after our guys. They're getting ready to give a 50% raise, and that is going to put them starting at over $70,000. And they deserve it, so I'm happy for them. But I just want us to be cognizant of the fact that we're going to have to push, or we're going to lose some guys. Speaking of Mark Reese, and we do appreciate his 24 years of service, but he's moved on to the state with a much higher paying job, and we're happy for him on that. Newcastle Police Department, they are already over $50,000 in their starting pay, and they are currently running a hiring process, and they're offering a $3,000 sign-on bonus. We are going to have to start another hiring process very soon. Within the next couple of weeks, we need to replace Mark's spot and possibly have some more openings coming up. So I want to encourage us to keep pressing, and I know you have, and I know you all worked hard to get this last raise, but just hoping that very, very soon we can get over the 50,000 mark. I think that's the key number right now for us. If we can just, in the very near future, get up over that 50,000 starting, that will encourage our troops. A couple of things, and I'm just going to hit some general topics, and then I'll follow up with you all on some specific needs. We need to look at some higher on bonuses as well with this new process that we are getting ready to put on. It's a little difficult when we're marketing against Newcastle, and they're saying 3,000, and we don't have any bonus, or maybe 1,000. So I appreciate them continue to push. I think we kind of help each other out with that. So we are only 3.5 weeks in, and we are working diligently to try to figure out where we are. We didn't have any kind of communication. There was no meetings called to advise us on anything transition-wise at all. So when we came in on the 1st, we basically were just had to jump in and start figuring things out. We've already found out that we had nearly $100,000 of unpaid bills from last year, dating all the way back to open invoices that occurred in May, and then working forward. We have paid 55,000 of those currently, obviously out of our 2023 budget, and I know that we have 80,000 that in total from last year that had not been paid, so we're going to have to pay that. So we have a tight budget anyway. There's really no way like we can survive with 100,000 loss right up front. So I will speak more to that at another date, soon another date. So we have some. Yes, absolutely.
I hate to
yes.
interrupt you, but I'm afraid I'll forget if I
Yeah,
don't.
no problem.
Did you talk to Debbie to see if there was any money left from last year's budget that we could? There is nothing left at all. Okay, I just wanted to check.
Well, that answered that. Several things that I want to make us aware of. We are short with vehicles. We have, and I brought this up in a budget meeting months back. We have not really experienced the shortage on vehicles because we've been short-staffed. So as we work towards getting fully staffed, our vehicle needs, we just brought in today 3 new deputies. This is their first day here, starting training. we've ordered 4 new cars, and that was ordered in the previous administration in December, but that was to come out of our 2023 budget. We have ordered those cars, but we don't have, until those come in, we do not have enough sheriff cars to put these guys in. And we would be putting them in vehicles that have 250+ thousand miles on them. That is a huge liability. The liability issue is very serious, and I don't know that we have taken liability seriously as we should. And there's some examples we could talk about, but liability is a big concern to me. At New Sheriff School, they talked about a county that was driving vehicles that were very old. I think they had a blowout or something happen with one of the vehicles. It killed the chief deputy's wife, and I think they paid out $4 or $5 million in a lawsuit because they were trying to hold up on spending $500 on fixing a vehicle. And I don't want to see those type of things. I know there's been times that when I was on the reserves that I would come in and do a walk around the vehicle and we had metal hanging out of the tire. And we've been told, hey, that's a $125 tire. Yeah, that's also a $5 million lawsuit. So I want you all to know that I am going to be very, very diligent in keeping the liability. That's our taxpayer liability down. So vehicles are a big issue. This is a touchy one, I know, but I've just got to put it out there because we've got to start looking in this direction. We are at about 91% in our new jail capacity-wise. We are going to have to start looking, and I think the conversation has already been started about building the other pod at the jail. Federal guidelines say we need to be about 80%. We're at 91%, I believe, today. And I've had meetings with the judges to talk about, how can we reduce the inmate population. And, we've been working hard to do what we can, but there's only so much that we can do. And I just want us to have that on our radar. We're going to have to approach this very, very soon. You all can interject any questions you'd like to any time. Just want to go over some notes and hit some highlights. One thing that I am wanting to do, we're finding that we're having to use the commissary fund has been used as just a humongous slush fund, and that's a terrible, terrible word for government finances. But it is just, there's been so much money movement and just paying all kinds of different things out of that commissary fund. It's our goal to work towards creating more line items. We're a pretty well trackable organization. We have certain expenses that are always there, and we're going to work towards getting those into line items because it makes it very confusing when the money's just going in circles. That's difficult. One item that I do want to mention that we've been housing 4 or 5 DOC inmates, and we have not billed for that. For whatever reason, I don't know, but I believe the last 11 months, 10 or 11 months, DOC was not billed for us housing their inmates, and at the end of the year is their cutoff for paying for that, and so we are working hard and diligently with them to try to at least recoup. We might be able to recoup 3 months of that money, and that is county money. That's money into the county fund, not ours. But I want you to be aware that we are working hard on trying to recoup some of that. And so,
Sure.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. How much did we lose by not billing DOC?
So we're working on the billings right now, but that could range from $3,000 to $8,000 a month. And we'll have a specific total here real soon.
Really disappointing. That could have been a new car.
Right. One other item that we are looking into, according to IC code, we can bill people that we have to run emergency detentions. We have to take them to Indianapolis or wherever. per state statute, we can bill them and their insurance and even state insurance if we transport them more than 30 miles out of the county, and most all of our transports are 30 miles. We have been running an enormous amount of transports, and we've never billed for that. So we are working to figure out the vehicle, if you will, to make that happen. We ran 100+ ED transports last year, and I know ambulance. We checked with the ambulance service; they charge about $1,500 to take somebody to options, and we take them there all the time. So take $1,500 or $1,500 times 100. That's a substantial amount of money. So we are going to work towards that and trying to generate that revenue. Another item that I do want to bring up is the SRO program. And if you watched last night, you heard about this. But the Blue River does not have an SRO right now. They're very concerned about that, and I'm very concerned about that. They approached us about our interest in mimicking the model that Newcastle Police is doing, where Newcastle schools are they're reimbursing Newcastle City Police Department for the officer's salary and their benefit package. So the SRO there is a full-time Newcastle police officer. He has the marked vehicle, which is a great deterrent. I like that approach. I would really like to see us model that instead of just handing special deputy badges to people to cover our schools. So the Blue River principal told me that they can cover the salary. They are interested in Gary Wilson going over there to be their full-time SRO. They said they have enough money in their budget to cover his salary, but they do not currently have enough to cover the benefits package. I told him that I would approach you all about seeing if for this year, if we would be willing to allow him to go over there if they would reimburse his entire salary package, as long as we had in contract for the future years that they will cover benefits and all. So I'll connect with you again in a formal way on that. But I would like to see us move towards that kind of a SRO setup. We are needing to purchase new guns. Our guns have been in service for a long time. They are .45 caliber, which is a lot more expensive ammunition. And so, you know, with as many officers as we have, we spend a lot of money on ammunition throughout the year. There's also some other important reasons that we feel like we need to make a switch to use what Newcastle is using. It's a 9mm with a internal red dot sight. Accuracy is much better, and you have more magazine capacity. And again, the expense throughout the year for the practice ammo and duty ammo is a lot less. So it may be a $3,000 to $4,000 savings a year in ammunition alone, but it's going to be about a $30,000 upgrade trading in our current guns. And this is something that we really need to work on quickly. So almost done here. Again, any questions, feel free to ask them. Okay, another item that I have here is our drug task force. It's a joint task force with the city. So it's a city-county joint task force. We have had to work hard to mend some bridges there. In fact, the task force kind of near the end of last year, well, it had pretty much come to an end, and we thought we were going to have to part ways with Newcastle, which would have been a terrible thing. We've been able to have some good conversation, and I have a good working relationship with Chief Schofield. But one issue that they wanted to do is to take over the money side, handling the money for the undercover task force agents. And it was getting hard. They said it was getting hard to get money, and they had been told and had been putting $25,000 into a so-called cash match fund each year. The city would write $25,000 check to the county, and that was supposed to be going into a matched $50,000 fund. So they requested that we allow them to run the finances, and I was fine with that. However, we're finding out that we didn't have any cash match funds, so we're going to have to cash match $25,000 to the city, and there's no line item for that. So that is an issue we'll have to cover quickly. Last thing, flock cameras. We are needing to the city has 4 flock cameras, and are you all familiar with what I'm talking about? That takes pictures of license plates, which would alert us to wanted persons, missing children alerts, things of that nature. These are very, very handy let me give you an example. If we were to have, let's just say we had a murder happen. Somebody knew he left in a black Dodge, and this is the license plate. We can, if we had cameras, we would have access to put that plate and that vehicle information in. We would get alerts on our phone of that just pinged in northbound State Road 3 at 300 North. It's an amazing tool, and we do not have any cameras. The city has them, but we cannot connect with their system because we do not own any of our own. We need to get 6 to 8 of those cameras. They are $2,500 each per year, and that price in April is going up to $3,000 per year. If we have cameras of our own, we can then access all of the other flock cameras in Indiana. In fact, in the United States, there's about 1,500 of those cameras spread out all over the state, and there's about 38 states that have cameras. So it would really be a huge benefit to us and to our citizens for a safety factor of, who's coming into your county. That'll set off, again, you put out a wanted person, wanted for a homicide. Well, if they roll down State Road 3 and we have a camera there, it's going to alert us, this vehicle, this plate is coming into your county.
I might suggest that you go with our ARP committee and. Okay, very good.
This is a yearly expense too, Kenan. Yeah.
Yeah, I heard that, yeah. That would only be to jumpstart.
Yeah, that is all I have. Again, I will get more specifics as we find out more specifics. It's going to take us another few weeks to really get a handle on, because we're still finding unpaid bills as we go. Just an example, I looked at my license plate on my unmarked sheriff car, and it said it expired 3 years ago. So I thought, well, that can't be right. So I ran it, and it expired 3 years ago. So just have patience with us as we work through these items, and we'll have a better update soon.
So we appreciate that.
I've got one last item. I'm sorry, I did forget. I do have a paper here. I believe it is standard process that you all sign a paper that allows us to use commissary funds for Sheriff's Department expenses. So I present several copies. I don't know, Debbie, do I give them to you? Okay, all right. And that's all I have. Any questions for me? Yes, sir. Yes, yes. Ann Bankson. Ann Bankson, we was able to take Ann from you all, and we was very, very happy to do that. Yes, thank you, yes. Anything else?
Yes, Sheriff, with the SRO at Blue River, you mentioned the possibility of the salary. You said
Yes.
you liked the idea of having, a marked car there. Was there any discussion about the ability of, would they provide a car or anything, or how would that work?
Yeah, so in the general discussion, they would have to provide the entire, we'll call it benefit package, which that would
fall into that.
included.
Okay.
That's correct. So, yeah, the end goal, and again, it's not going to be able to happen this year at Blue River because they already have their money allotted for the SRO. It is enough to cover the salary, but I would respectfully request that, that the county would allow us to make this move as long as we can secure a contract that in the future they would cover salary and a benefit package, because we would have to hire a new deputy to replace losing one out there. Did you have a question, Susan?
I just wanted to mention that if you get to the point where you're ready to talk about the new pod, we have a correctional subcommittee formed. It's Ken and Harold and myself.
Okay,
And that might be a good, when you're ready to start involving us. You
right,
could
yes.
start with-
Who's the point on that?
We can always find.
Okay, all right.
If that's okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, commissioners will be very much involved as well,
Yes.
but financially, we'll have to sometime
Right,
be
right.
involved.
Yeah, we'll connect with you very, very soon on that.
It sounds like you'll be in connection with us and getting with us on a lot of topics.
Yeah, we will. We will.
Sheriff?
Yes.
Thank you for all the information.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate the level of detail. I know I've said this to you informally, but we definitely want to get wages up for deputies. I would just beg of you, like we beg any other department head, you know, anything you can find in your budget, and I know you're still getting your grip on the budget, but, you know, if there's anything we can trim to bump those salaries up, like, to me, that's the cleanest way forward. So I want to see our police make the money they deserve and at least be more competitive, but you know how we are financially as a county, so
Right.
if you can find in your own budget, I think that'd be really a good start.
Yes, I get that, and I understand that. And when you said that, it brought up another point, another note here that I had that I missed. And I brought this up earlier, and you triggered this thought. We need 2 more deputies. So that is another item that we're going to be getting together with really soon. If we had 2 more, so our detective division, our detective captain, Matt Pierce, is here. He was the officer of the year in 2022, and rightfully so, because he has been working shorthanded and doing a great job. But he is very shorthanded. Right now, it is him and 2 other detectives. And so we've got to replenish. Really, he needs 2 more detectives. And if we did that, that takes 2 more off of our road, and that's where I come up with, we're 2 officers short. If we could come up with 2 more salary ordinances, or whatever you all call them, for 2 new officers, it's really a must. And I know we're tight financially, or maybe even upside down financially, but I do know this: our citizens care about taking care of the first responders. They care about that, and they will do that. So I just know that they want to be protected well, and they want our first responders taken care of well. So I'll present this contract, or this, to you. Anything else?
No, Sheriff.
Yep. thank you.
I do recall at our budget hearings last August that at the time, I think Rebecca shared that we were 6 officers short, which we did budget for. So I would say, Ann, get with Debbie, and let's find out exactly where we are, because that's what we were shared last August, that we funded for 6 officers that were not employed at that time. So there should be some buffer somewhere. Yep, what? Well, we were short for the jail too. So that's what, just get together with the auditor, get with Debbie, and let's
So-
look at the numbers. what they
So
actually are.
possibly there would be an open position that we did budget for, is what Kenan is suggesting.
So speaking about open salary ordinances or positions, we had about 7 or 8 full-time open positions just in the jail side alone last year. We did not fill them, and the money's gone. So
They've used it for part-timers.
used it for something, and I'm going to assume part-timers, but this brings up more of a general question. I feel like, and again, I'm just trying to get the big picture and then narrow it down as we go. My feeling is that we have been short-funded, and I'm not, don't take that wrong, okay? Our budget has been short, and we have been running short on manpower and using those pay slots to pay for items that we have to have. So this is a big concern. I think we're going to find, when we really get into the details, we're going to find that we are substantially short, but because we've been running short on manpower, we've continued to bring in the salary, the money from you all, but we're having to, that's why I say money's going in circles. It's hard to track.
So money's intended for salaries have gone for day-to-day
Correct.
operating expenses.
Yes, correct. So on the jail side, now we don't have those openings on the road side, but on the jail side, I know we had 7 full-time open positions, and we didn't have the people. Throwing quick numbers, 4 times 7 is $280,000, and I know it's a little less than that, but the money's gone and the people were never there. So I feel like, again, we're consuming money that was budgeted for something else because we had to pay operating expenses. So that's why when I say I want to line item these things out, operating expenses, which are reoccurring expenses, we've got to have those lined out in a budget to where we're not, again, we've got this massive slush fund that we're just grabbing, and no fault to the previous administration. We have to have the money to pay ongoing expenses, and I think we're using salary ordinances in some manner. Once it's done a big circle, it's finally getting into paying operational expenses.
Ken and I have had this discussion. Where's the money from the open positions, and is it coming back? And one thing, legally, we have to hold those positions open because we're committed with the lawsuit settlement.
Right. Yes. Well, we actually need them filled with people. And,
I understand.
Yeah, and so that our goal is we've got to fill those with people. So my concern is if we did that, and I don't know, Debbie could answer. I mean, did we have a bunch of money come back? Yeah, and paying overtime. So that is, we're short-staffed, and we're paying these people to work double time. So we're paying them time and a half instead of hiring people full-time. And let me say this: I asked several employees when I first got in there 2.5 weeks ago, asking the jail staff, "Hey, are you full-time? You're part-time?" "No, I'm part-time, but I'd like to be full-time." And I said, what do you mean by you're part-time, you'd like to be full-time? "I don't know, I'm part-time, but I want to be full-time." So I said, hey, we've got to hire full-time people. We need full-time people, and I think we moved like 2 or 3 people right off the bat from part-time status to full-time. So I'm cognizant of, I want full-time people working 40 hours instead of a part-time person. Instead of somebody having to work 80 and making that overtime. That's
Right.
a lot of money when it's a lot of people.
We need to sit down and figure this out with
we will.
Debbie, you, Ann.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to ask, and it's going to seem like a ridiculous question, so
Okay.
please don't take it that way. We need more money, or we need to ask you guys to do less, right? You don't need 2 officers
No.
if you don't have to do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
My question is, what's X, Y, and Z?
There is not an X, Y, and Z. That's the problem. To ask us to do less would mean less protection, less people on the road, less safety. And so it would be nice if we could say, oh, yeah, well, we've got these positions that we don't need. It would be nice to be able to do less, but we can't. But good, it's a good point.
I appreciate that. I asked it and
Yeah.
prefaced it with it was ridiculous, but I
Yes.
had to ask the question.
No, good question, good statement. Anything else? I'm sorry, I jumped back up here twice. But is it? Okay.
Thank you, Sheriff. We've got some work ahead and some study ahead. Yes, Harold. I took voluminous notes, Sheriff, so that these would not be, and I'm sure Debbie did as well, so these would not be forgotten. Next, we need to address the matter of the 2016 GEO bond. Our auditor, Debbie, emailed something a few days ago, maybe a week ago. In doing our annual financial report, we found that we still have a balance of $3,570 in the 2016 GEO bond and also on the debt service. She contacted Jason Simler and recommendation of putting this either back into the county general fund or into the rainy day fund. We need to discuss those options. And I will say the last 4 years, we've not put anything additional back in the rainy day fund. We've talked about it, and Baker Tilly has recommended that we're pretty low in that fund if we have a catastrophe or some unforeseen major derailment of something in our budget. So open up for discussion. We need to address these monies and what to do with them.
So I think from Debbie's email, we need to take a vote on officially moving the money from that bond. Okay. Where we want it to go. So to the general fund or to the rainy day fund, those our two options? Yeah.
You need to move what is left in the 2016 bill bond fund into the debt payment fund, and then you will make that vote that that's an dormant account, and then determine where you want to.
Okay, so the first move is an ordinance going through JOLA.
We just have to decide where we want it to go.
And can we decide that now or next month?
I think we should decide it now so we can vote on all of it.
Well, I made my editorial comment. We have done nothing to the rainy day fund for at least 5 years. But the general fund is also,
Our general fund, we did hit our goal for operating balance.
we balance our budget in the general fund before hearing all of these things over the last 10 minutes.
I think we hit a 20% operating reserve. And so at that point, Baker Tilly said we could move monies into the rainy day fund, so.
Yes, so I'm hearing a move to the rainy day fund.
I'll make the motion to create the resolution to make the account dormant and shift it into the rainy day fund.
Okay.
I'll second.
Motion by Betsy, seconded by Susan. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. Thank you. Steve Rust. I had a couple of things down on the original agenda on GIS. One would be an update. You had a previous request to move the GIS budget back to under you, the surveyor. And I think like an update on the GIS person that we deliberated.
Yeah, I'd like to announce that February 7th, hopefully, keep fingers crossed, we have a person to fill the GIS. So I wanted to re-thank everybody on the council for the advance of doing what we needed to do to get somebody, because we started getting applications immediately when we advertised it. I think this person will be as good, if not as good as Taylor was. It's hard to beat her, but I think this will be just as good, if not better. So I just wanted to announce that. So, and
That's a definite thumbs up if she's as good as Taylor, from what I hear from
seems like she's
department
going to be
heads.
really good. And then the budget, that's the one thing that we had talked about changing back to our department under the surveyor's office, the budget for the GIS.
I think when you first brought that up, I said, our comment was, I don't think the council cared one way or the other. It was requested and it was submitted to the state under the commissioners. I don't know what process. I did hear Debbie a month or so ago when you first brought that up, that we had to wait until the first of the year because and I don't know what process we need to use, but I haven't heard a council member say that they're against or have a strong preference of where that's at. So open to discussion or advice.
I am wondering if we should leave it until budget time, just so the auditor's department doesn't have to. I don't know if there's a lot of value add to move it just for this year.
Yeah, I think, I talked to Bobby about it when we had our meeting. I think the biggest concern is we have to keep take time to keep track of all the hours and all the time that they get, vacation, comp time, flex days and everything like that. It's going to be in our office, and so having somebody watch that is going to have to be Ruth to keep track of that. And if there's a decision to be made, it's going to be a little hard if it's not underneath of our budget of, you know, they come in to ask for days off, they're going to have to go. And I think Bobby. Yeah, right. Right. Okay, so what do we do with right now, I think the budget, the money that they put in there is underneath of the surveyor's office right now for their budget. The $1,600 that they put in there for supplies. I think if you'll look, it's still underneath of my budget.
I don't think I followed that. 1,600 for supplies.
I think if Ruth was telling me that I think there were $1,600 allowed underneath my budget for GIS. So.
The position?
For buying stuff. I mean, I've checked, but Ruth's seen it on the budget. I think Debbie might have to check it and see, but I think it was underneath there. Ruth's pretty good about looking at that. Something underneath, yeah, GIS, so there's something underneath mine for that, so, okay. I didn't know how that.
Is that for, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I know. No, Ruth just was wanting to, it's just the oversee of the person. If the person gets up, let's just say, okay, you guys already in or something there, I'm going to take a flex day. There's no authority there. I mean, yeah. Right.
Or I'm sick, or I'm taking vacation, I plan on taking vacation, so.
I know it's a catch-22, but it's just nice to have that underneath of your budget like we talked about. And you said you didn't care when we talked that one time in the meeting, and I just.
But I think it's already, had it been changed prior to the budget being approved, because when we talked, it was prior to the final budget being approved, but it didn't happen, and I personally don't care, but I think we should just wait till the next budget. And you can have it that without any conversation.
Okay, well, if they get in a decision or there's a bad situation, that's the only thing I see that you're under. I'm really not their boss. That's the only thing I'm looking at, because I'm really not over them as far as. Right, exactly. So, but you get in a bad situation, it could maybe. Well, let's just say you get in a predicament or something, they want to take time off, and I don't want them to, because we need something done. That's what I'm saying. Exactly. That's all I'm saying, is it's just authority, and I think that's, not that it's the authority of it, but if we got something going on, they need to get off, then they got to go to you. Well, that's going to be debatable, I think, in the long run. So,
I'm going to go back and circle around to the good news. It looks like we have a GIS person, which the counties really needs as soon as possible, so.
yeah, that's sort of the reason I didn't want to move it in the first place, was because it was over there and it was there, and we've always had it there, and it's worked just fine, so.
Was
Yeah,
it
question.
1,600 in supplies? Was that for a software update that has to occur every year?
No,
Well,
I think that's
since we
for.
talked about it, but I was
I
just
think
curious.
that's ink, and because the ink's very expensive for those jet printers over there. That map, she got a 48-inch.
Right, okay.
So some of that stuff's pretty expensive.
The
so
plotter.
paper and the plotter, yeah. So that's what that was for.
Thank you, Steve. Just keep in communication with the auditor and the commissioner's office, thanks. Joe, we have a couple of bits of information, 2 positions, and I think Community Crossings grant.
Good afternoon. First item is set time again, Community Crossing Matching Grant Fund. We can receive up to $1 million, and the state will reimburse 75%, and they give us a straight up $1 million. once the contract is approved. So this year, again, I'm looking at resurface, but I need a financial commitment letter signed by the president so that they'll know that the council is guaranteeing that it'll be paid, so our share. I don't know if everybody has a copy. Steve, can you hand that out? Thank you. The roads that I'm looking at resurfacing, they're all collector roads in the county. That's what I usually do. It will raise our chances of getting the money a little bit better than a local road. Shirley Road from the Hancock County line to State Road 109, 25 west from State Road 3 to 500 south. Brown Road from Newcastle limits to 325 east, 200 south from Dublin Pike to 500 east, and 200 south from Wilbur Wright Road to 850 east going north. Those 5 roads. Estimate, which is based on last year's bid, is $1,555,047.24. That may be a little high. I think asphalt's come down a little bit. So the bids I propose, I hope they'll be less than that.
Same question as last night at the commissioners' meeting. You have the monies for the match?
Yes, LOHUT.
Did you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
We usually have approved this every year. I think, didn't you guys, because of the expense of everything now, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, you are able to get, what, around 40 miles a year paved in roads and stuff?
Last year, the final total was right around 60 miles that we either paved, chip sealed, tore up and put back to stone. Those 3 things, and it was right around 60 miles. And I hope to continue that, so hopefully in about, now with the price increases, hopefully in about 14 years, we can get around to every one of them.
First time I met a couple years ago, you said 13 years, but
Right.
inflation, it's up, yeah. Of that 60, how much is repaving asphalt?
I think it was around, we spent, I think right around 60% on asphalt.
And that includes community crossings or not?
No.
Okay. And that's about 11 miles?
I think it's maybe a little bit more now.
Okay.
Yeah. Right now, contractor asphalt with using last year's prices was a little over $200,000 a mile. And that includes everything. The state will not allow us to do a portion of the road work. So that includes berming the edge of the road, milling wherever needed for butt joints, paving it, and putting stone along the edge.
Did the county re-berm Stone Sulphur Springs recently? Because
Yes.
I thought so.
Yeah, there's a dry off that was
Yeah.
that or more, yeah.
And you have 2 laborer positions I
Yes,
heard about.
we're having difficulty finding CDL drivers. And it's getting worse. We're not the only county that's having problems. The requirements to get a CDL has gotten worse. You have to take a test, not a written test, and also a driving test to get there. And it costs money to do that. So what I'm proposing is to put in 2 laborers positions that they can start as a laborer, and then they can work toward getting their CDL license through the test. Now, we do have a opportunity. Madison County has 2 of their employees who have taken the test and the requirements to teach those written classes, written test classes. So we have the ability to go over there, and you know, we're going to have to pay them a little bit, but it's probably cheaper than sending them to school. But once they receive their CDL license, my proposal is to work with Joel and the commissioners to come up with some idea about how long they need to stay with us for what we have to pay up front to get that CDL license. And if they leave early, then they need to be paying us back some money.
What do you need from us? I mean, historically, this would go through the process of job classification, which I think we're about to maybe reorganize.
Okay.
Because I think we have members that could
I-
fill that position.
With the commissioners told me to get a hold of Wagner, Irwin, and Shealy, so I did. I got a hold of Addie, and she put together a memo, which Steve's handing out right now, on the position. She put together a position description and give us a range of the amount that we should be paying for a labor, or laborers. And so I had first said $17.50 an hour for labor to get them in. And that, Addie said that falls within her recommendation. Low end is, $17.10, and the high end is $19. I don't want to get them too close to our drivers on wage. This paper shows, I recalculated our budget for 2023 for MBH 1176, and that's where I want to put the labor's positions line item. It was there at one time before. And this shows at the end of the year, taking out our appropriation for the remainder of the year, that we would have a little over $1 million left at the end of the year, cash. All right? And our annual income is, I usually estimate it $1,950,000. So I put together a spreadsheet showing what 2 labors should cost us, figuring federal, retirement, health insurance, and I used $20,000 apiece for the health insurance. I'd heard a figure of 18 before, but I figure it's went up. So the total cost for 2 labors would be $126,523 a year.
How much did you say for fringe benefits?
Oh, for health insurance, I put in $20,000 apiece a year for our share.
Okay.
Does that cover it? Yeah.
Joe, do you anticipate them being laborers for a full year? Is it going to take them that long to get their CDL, and will they want to bump up to a driver?
Well, I want them
Sooner
to
than that.
I wanted to get started right away and get them moving up toward. I don't want to hire people that do not want to get a CDL. That's not the idea. The idea is to hire on. I've got a guy now that's willing to start as a laborer with the idea of getting a CDL. So I would want to hire them with the idea that they'll get it, depending on how quickly we can get them through the testing and the driving. And I believe they can get a learner's permit and ride with some of the guys or drive with someone with them so they can learn, and then when they take the driving test, they're not green, rookie. So
would I be correct that the budgeted positions would actually be a savings in your budget rather than having 2 full CDL drivers all year long? You would have laborers for part of that year and then drivers part of the year. So overall, it would be a savings in your budget.
Yeah, so we would not we're right now at a 22-person max. All right, this would make us a 24-person. All right, the idea is if we have openings, we're going to fill them with laborers so we can move them up. Now, if we find a CDL driver that walked in the door, that'd be a totally different thing, but that's not happening very often. And other counties, I'm hearing, are having the same problem.
About a year ago, you'd indicated you were 2 employees, I think CDL, truck drivers short, and you hired those. I think you were down to 20 at one time, if I'm not mistaken, and you
Right.
hired 2 to get back up to the 22 you just
Right.
mentioned. This would bring, still 22, but 2 plus 2 laborers, which you had, or maybe Joe Wiley had, several years ago, he had 2 laborers.
Yes,
But
he
you've
had
been without
laborers.
those for over a year, have you not?
The line item still shows, or did, in there, but there's no money in it. so.
Yeah, Wagner Irwin Shealy deleted that estimate last year because it didn't have one for a year or 2. And normally, our process is to go through job classification, which I think we're about ready to restart.
I was preparing for,
And we have people that, to appoint 3 persons, and I think commissioners have 1, and we still had 2 gentlemen from the sheriff's department and 1 from the recorders. And we have a Mr. Fisher that is a community member who submitted an email. So we have enough for a well-formulated job classification, something we've had issues with over the past couple of years. So does anyone have any suggestions other than let's get a job classification reconstituted?
I have a question. Is that okay? Okay. Well, it's not about job classification, but, so your cash balance at the beginning of this year was 1.3 million, and it was estimated at the end of the year to be 1 million.
yeah, I've taken all the appropriation out of it. Yes.
So you are already going to, start next year $300,000 less, and if we do this, then we'll start next year $400,000 less. And I just, this year, this fund consistently overspends, but still has a healthy balance because it had such a high balance when you came in. But are we getting to the point where, how?
We've been holding a pretty good balance in motor vehicle highway, 1176.
But it's decreasing continually, right?
Yeah, it should, that shouldn't be, well, the reason it decreased this year is because I brought more items out of LOHUT we were paying for over to 1176. And one of those was fuel. Fuel accounted for about $300,000. Yeah, it's been moved.
So it sounds like we have 2 different things, and 2 different motions to make. First, we have the commitment letter, which I don't think we took action on. So I would move that we approve the commitment letter for the Community Crossings Grant and the number that Mr. Copeland suggested.
Second.
Yes, it's been moved that we approve the commitment letter for community crossings by Betsy. Do I have a second? Susan? Any discussion? If not, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. It's signed by Steve and me.
And so, and then I would ask Mr. Joe, I don't know why I'm calling him Mr. Copeland, the labor positions, are these pretty time sensitive?
I mean, as far as,
So we could hypothetically take action right now, or we could wait to form job classification.
if
and-
you prefer to wait, then we can wait.
Okay, so a month isn't going to
No,
hurt too much.
It's not something that
Okay.
has to be done today, right.
Okay.
I'm preparing to let you know, and if you want to go through job classification, that's fine.
If that's the case, I think we have numbers and members. I think they can meet the first half of February. In the past, I think Ann helped schedule and arrange that, and then that would be Stephanie, I believe. And that's the next thing on our, thank you, Joe. There's that. I don't know if Debbie needs a copy of that or not. And the next topic is job classification. I've heard different members have different thoughts about that. We do have 3 members who volunteered to be on that for 2023. And again, Betsy, don't remember the sheriff deputy that's on it.
Nate Kovacs?
Kovacs is on it. And we have an individual, Mandy from Recorder.
She's right over there, yeah. She just joined.
Thank you for doing that. And we have a commissioner, I believe, assigned to that as well. Bobby, okay. So we have something you haven't had in 2 years.
Yeah, we're actually going to be making
complement of-
quorum, I
Yes,
hope.
yes.
Yeah, we've had a struggle with that. And I actually begged Susan to join me. Chad was a machine on that committee, and so was Ann, and losing both of them, I wanted to have an experienced, seasoned council member, so I asked Susan to join me, and I appreciate that she said yes, and I think Shannon will be a great addition too. Yeah, we'll see.
Okay. We'll leave it to you 7 or 8 or 9. I lost count, 7 to.
Do you have any citizens that are going to?
Yes, there's a Mr. Fisher who serves on our planning commission who wrote a letter that he would be interested.
So what's the approval process for that? Do we just appoint him?
I don't know how it was formulated last time.
I don't either. I don't recall that at all. And I was at all of them, so.
Yes, that is true. Yes, there was brought up at a,
I don't know that we ever took
she's
action
looking
on
at
it.
last minute. I think he read the letter aloud at our December meeting. Well, it was Chad. The committee will have to vote on it and select would have to have a president that they nominate and select at their first meeting. Pardon? Yes, they report to the council. Is there any discussion? A member asked Debbie to look up any information they could relating to job classification. Is there any discussion on that?
So do we need to appoint him, or it's already done? It's not, is it in the minutes or anything? Well, can I make the motion now just to keep it moving, if we haven't already? So
Let's move.
yeah, I'd like to make the motion to appoint Mr. Fisher to the Job Classification Committee.
Okay, Betsy moved and Harold seconded to appoint David Fisher to the Job Classification Committee. Any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. Is there any other discussion about job classification, or we're going to leave that to the discussion among the members when you form your meeting?
So Stephanie will be directed to organize us, and like Ann used to do that. Okay. Okay, great.
Okay, so Joe knows that's going to be a recommendation that they're going to deliberate at the next job classification committee, hopefully in first half of February, or in time for our February meeting. EIRPC update, Betsy.
Okay, so I'll try to get through this quickly. I know it's been a long meeting. We met in Richmond today, myself, Councilman Aaron Dickin, Commissioner Bobby Plummer, over at the Old Richmond Inn for the quarterly EIRPC meeting. Last year, I don't think we had a great presence because there was some miscommunication, but I think we're starting off the year really strong. Jeff Bolhaster was the former president of the IRPC, and he stepped down. We met Gertrude Whitaker, and she is part-time. They're looking at maybe changing that, but she is a former county auditor and has a lot of state, local, and federal experience. I would also like to congratulate Bobby on being elected secretary of the IRPC. So I think the big things we talked about today, Chad has mentioned this before in previous years, there's a lot of grants with regards to robotics in schools, and there wasn't a ton of detail about that, but worth noting. The thing that I'm most interested in, I think to me, this is why we voted to join the EIRPC, because the return on investment is going to be incredible. So The federal government has allocated $42.5 billion for broadband infrastructure. Indiana is going to get $700 million of that in June. And we're going to get a cut of that. And the way the Indiana Broadband Office works, they're making plans now. They're not going to dole it out county by county. They're doing it by regions because it makes sense infrastructure-wise that they do it by regions. It doesn't, you don't cut off broadband at the county level. So, you know, everybody in our district needs to be broadband ready. They recommend that we have a broadband task force. I volunteer to be on that committee. I think everybody knows I'm pretty fired up about this. I would welcome other members or anybody who's interested, but I think it'd be good to have somebody, and I've sort of been our point person on that for the last couple of years. Corey Knipp, who's the broadband specialist, he noted that affordability is really important for broadband. There is a government benefit that if you're at a certain income level, they will help subsidize your internet usage, you know, for business, for school. Only 21% of eligible people are signed up, and that means 79 aren't. And they want to get people signed up because broadband providers want to go into areas where people are using internet. When I met with Corey last year, he mentioned that some of these signups go through like our local health department. It would be a collaboration with them, and he's had some really good efforts. He mentioned Rush County was a county that had really taken advantage. So I only see that as a win. I think we were really wise to stick with the IRPC with all the broadband stuff, and I'll keep everybody posted if you have any questions.
Thank you for serving on it. Congratulations to Bobby. As Corey usually says, congratulations and condolences. It's extra work. But
Well, nomination went pretty dang quick to go to second, so I think there was a two.
that's usually how it happens. Well, congratulations. Thank you both for serving on that. And I think that will be money well spent in the long run, broadband and otherwise, infrastructure. Pardon? Yes, the liaisons, I sent out this has been a work in progress, but I sent out the latest in your email. If you don't have it, I've got, I don't want to read all these, but I have copies for anybody that needs copies, including the media. We've already mentioned the abatement, ARP, assessor, auditor, clerk, commissioners, community corrections, coroner. These are all listed, and I have copies. Is anyone opposed to just approving these, or are there any changes to the communication that I sent out earlier in the day?
Yeah, there's a change on the Veterans Office.
Yeah.
Willing to give that up for me.
Yes, yes, and I have that on my recent copy, which I'll be glad to give you, and it's also an email that I sent out this afternoon. There's multiple changes because we had to fill in both Chad's and Peggy's, and there's also changes other than Chad and Peggy, but I have a copy for anyone that's interested. Are we wanting to discuss or ready to make a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Moved by Susan, seconded by Betsy. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor for the lengthy assignments to be liaisons to various departments and committees, say, as been shared, say aye.
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 Opposed? Passes 7-0. And again, I have copies of those for anyone who's interested and for Debbie. Couple of things. I want to welcome Council Member Mike Regner and Shannon. I have heard your name Tom and Tom, and I've heard it at different meetings pronounced both ways. Give us the official.
It's Tome.
Tom?
Home. Long O like home.
Tom. Okay. And that was one of the ways I heard it. We want to welcome both of you. Congratulations on your win and welcome. And if it's like most of us, there's a learning curve, just like our sheriff mentioned, there's a learning curve to any job. but I think there's people here to answer questions and to help with that learning curve. So welcome. One of the things I mentioned via text is I would like personally, and open this up to discussion, a quarterly work session where there's a standing invite to commissioners and to Debbie and anyone else that's interested, but that we, hopefully starting in February, and we meet at least quarterly. I know Susan also sent something out on the regard that maybe that will help with communications and possible misunderstandings. I have 7 dates in mind. You might look at your calendar. I'm out for a period of time in February, but February 7th, 17th, and 21st are possibilities for me. And I just throw those dates out because they're readily available for me, so I'm being selfish.
I think it's a good idea to have the work session and invite the commissioners. I think that's a good idea. And I know Shannon just said none of those dates work for him. A couple of
Okay.
them work for me, but maybe we need to work on that over text to see if
We
we can.
can,
get it done.
but is there an agreement that this might be a good idea for communication? It also might speed up our meetings because some of the tasks could be decided and mulled over ahead of time.
It's a great idea. It only makes sense.
Okay, well, I'll send out text on dates that are good for all of you. I am out between the 8th and the 15th. I'll share that right now. So thank you.
Can I interrupt you? Can it just, because maybe not all the council members know that the commissioners, the third or the fourth Wednesday of every month at 3 o'clock, we have a work session.
At 3? Okay. And that might be something that maybe we can coordinate. Okay. We'll work on that too. Thank you. At the last meeting, we left open, did not pin down the November and December. I'd like to do that tonight if you're amenable. I suggest the November 30th because the 23rd, which would be a normal meeting, is on Thanksgiving. I don't think anyone wants to meet on Thanksgiving. That would move it back a week to the 30th. And then we could tentatively pencil in December 28th, which is 3 days after Christmas, because the week before that is Planning Commission, and we just kept bumping into.
Fourth Thursday is the 28th.
Right. It is? Okay. Well, last year we went to like this. Okay. So are we okay with actually making that official tonight? The 30th, the week after Thanksgiving, and the 30th, 28th of December, which is the 4th. I have a motion to that.
So moved.
Okay. I didn't catch who seconded, but Debbie did. I hope. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. December 30th and 28th. All the others are also on the fourth Thursday at 4 p.m. There might be an asterisk to that if we have to have a public meeting, but we can discuss that the month prior. My suggestions for liaison responsibilities, because we have a couple of new members, and I think Kyle came on early last year, is that you try to meet with your liaison, text, call, meet in person, email, at least quarterly, so that you can report back information. You would become to answer questions or respond to questions at the meetings, and they appreciate it, and I think it's just good that we do that as part of our elected capacity. Harold. Yeah, I'll tell you what, I will just give you a copy because I made.
For some emails that went out today. I'm good. Just save the tree and download it tomorrow.
discussion, I added grants, which is me, technology, which is Shannon. Veterans did switch over to Mike Regner, and I put ARPA down as Kyle and me because we had abatement committee, and I just added ARPA committee. So otherwise, everything else is printed as shared by Debbie. Next council meeting is on February 23rd at 4 p.m. Public comment. Appreciate department heads who show up. We always seem to have a comment in the paper about our long meetings. We meet once a month for an hour and 5 minutes. No, an hour and 35 minutes, pardon me. So thank you for your patience. Thank you, everyone who showed up. Congratulations to those who were elected. Look forward to working with you this year. Happy New Year. Enjoy. Drive safely.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion to adjourn. Second. You got it down who did that? Adjourn.